I show 2 minutes. You have a super quorum. I show 9:30.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Let's call to order the regular meeting of the Western Municipal Water District Board of Directors. Tammy, would you please conduct a roll call?
Thank you. Good morning. Director Torres,
I'm here.
Director Denstedt,
Present.
Director Roten, Director Rizvi.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning. President Gardner.
I am here.
Thank you, President Gardner. You do have a quorum today.
Thank you very much. This morning, we're going to be led in the pledge by Nick Barnes, an Operation Technician 4 in Construction and Collections and Operations Department. Nick, if you would come up, tell us a little bit about you and lead us when you're ready.
That's it. My name's Nick. I've been with Western for about, actually, next week, mark 12 years. All in construction collections, doing all the repairs, those late night calls, fixing leaks, and all the welding.
We appreciate it very much.
Thank you. If you guys wouldn't mind standing, you already are. All right, cool. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. We've got a lot of great shots of Nick in his welding gear.
I bet.
So we don't really know it's him. He's behind the mask, but he's
Yeah.
he's famous in our videos.
That's why he hasn't got spots all over.
Well,
him.
he's wearing long sleeves. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you. Okay, brings us to public comments. Tammy, did we receive any comments by the deadline yesterday, or do we have anyone present who would like to comment?
I have no general comments at this time, no requests to speak, and no written comments received.
Okay, thank you very much. Brings us to the consent calendar. Does anybody wish to pull anything? And if not, could we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Tammy, when the system is ready, if you would do a roll call vote, please.
Director Torres? Director Torres?
Yes. Excuse me.
Director Denstedt?
Aye.
Director Rizvi?
Aye.
President Gardner?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0.
Great, thank you very much. Brings us to our action items. The first is to consider adopting an addendum to the 2019 Santa Ana River Conservation and Conjunctive Use Program Joint Projects Final Environmental Impact Report for the Well 7 site location selection.
Before we do that, I feel left out because you didn't ask me if there's anything to add to the
Oh
agenda.
darn, is there anything to add to the agenda?
No, there's not.
Boy, thank you.
We just got to follow the rules.
I know.
All right. Derek is going to do this presentation. We ran through this at engineering committee, And Derek is going to run through it for us today. Derek, it's all yours.
Great, thank you. Good morning, members of the board. Today I'll be presenting on the Well 7 project, which is a key component of the Santa Ana River Conservation and Conjunctive Use Program, or SARCUP. SARCUP is a regional initiative designed to improve water supply reliability throughout the Santa Ana River watershed. Its primary goals are to maximize the use of local groundwater resources, enhance regional water storage capabilities, and reduce reliance on imported water supplies from sources like the Colorado River, which are increasingly at risk due to drought and overallocation. The Well 7 project specifically supports these goals by developing a new local groundwater source within Riverside-Arlington Groundwater Basin. This project will provide a reliable, sustainable source of non-potable water for irrigation and other uses, helping to decrease our dependence on imported water and improving overall water security for the region. Next slide, please. Today, we are requesting the adoption of Resolution 3303 by the board, which would approve an addendum to the SARCUP Joint Project's Final Environmental Impact Report, or FEIR, for the revised Well 7 site location. This approval is critical not only for the continuation of the project, but to also ensure that we are meeting the requirements of the grant funding this effort. The grant allocated to this project is significant financial contribution, and to secure these funds, we must meet specific project deadlines, including the completion of the construction by July of 2025. The addendum assures that the project remains fully compliant with the California Environmental Quality Act and allows us to move forward without unnecessary delays. Next slide, please. Now let's review the addendum process. Initially, our staff conducted a thorough assessment to determine the appropriate level of environmental review required for the proposed changes to the Well 7 project. This assessment has confirmed that the modifications did not necessitate a new environmental impact report or a major amendment, but could be adequately addressed through an addendum to the existing FEIR. This determination was based on the fact that the relocation of the well and the shortening of the pipeline do not introduce new significant environmental impacts or substantially increase the severity of previously identified impacts. The addendum process ensures that the modifications are documented, assessed, and confirmed to be consistent with the previously certified FEIR. This approach is fully compliant with CEQA guidelines, section 15164, which allows for an addendum when only minor technical changes are required. Once approved by the board, it will be made publicly accessible and attached to the FEIR in our official records, and this will maintain transparency and legal defensibility. Next slide, please. The original 2019 FEIR had several well sites locations that were carefully evaluated, including the CVS Pharmacy parking lot on Magnolia Avenue. These sites were selected based on the potential to effectively access the Riverside-Arlington groundwater basin while minimizing impacts on surrounding community and infrastructure. However, as the project progressed, ongoing studies and updated groundwater data revealed that an alternative location would provide better access to groundwater while further reducing potential impacts. Next slide, please. As a result, we have relocated the well to approximately 1.4 miles northeast from the original CVS parking lot to an unused portion of a church parking lot. This new site was selected based on an improved subsurface data, which indicated that it would provide better conditions for groundwater extraction and minimize the impacts on the surrounding area. Additionally, this relocation allows us to significantly shorten the pipeline from 4 miles to just a half mile. This reduces the construction disruption, cost, and environmental impact while still achieving the project's supply goals. Next slide, please. The revised pipeline will be routed through existing streets to connect directly to the Riverside Canal, which will facilitate the delivery of water to Western Water's non-potable customers. These customers include the Riverside National Cemetery, various landscaping projects, plant nurseries, and school fields. By providing a sustainable, locally sourced water supply for these non-potable applications, the Well 7 project directly supports SARCUP's goal of maximizing the use of local water resources and reducing reliance on imported water. Next slide. It's important to note that although the well site is moved, the groundwater source remains the Riverside South subbasin as recognized in the 1969 Western San Bernardino judgment. This ensures that all groundwater instructions are consistent with the adjudicated rights and basin management objectives and reinforces our commitment to sustainable use and long-term basin health. I would like to go over the question of water rights issues. The Riverside Arlington Basin, fully named the Upper Santa Ana Valley Riverside Arlington Groundwater Basin, is identified by the Department of Water Resources within the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, or SGMA. Well 7, as depicted on the current and subsequent slides, is located within that portion of the basin as governed by the 1969 stipulated judgment. The adjudicated portion, which is exempt from SGMA, includes two parts: the Riverside Basin North in the San Bernardino County and the Riverside Basin South between the county line and Riverside Narrows. The 1969 judgment manages the boundary between the Riverside and Arlington subbasins and regulates the groundwater flows at the Riverside Narrows. Next slide, please. The new well site and pipeline route are fully within the Riverside Basin boundaries as defined by the 1969 judgment. This compliance ensures that the project does not impact neighboring basins or water users and remains fully aligned with the legal requirements and basin management strategies. Note that this map shows the boundary of the Riverside South Basin, or subbasin. This map is decades old. Western Water did not make this line. The state of California did. I mention this because there's been some confusion expressed about which basin the proposed well location is in by some public comments. All the proposed wells are in the same basin. That's what's indicated in this slide. You can see the two red are the evaluated in the FEIR originally, and the green one is the location that we're proposing now. And that line that's indicated on the slide, that's showing the basin boundary. They're all in the same basin. Now, to be clear, these locations maintain some obligations under the 1969 judgment, regardless of their exact position within the basin. Importantly, the 1969 judgment does not define extraction rights, specifically within the Riverside Arlington Basin. No one has assigned water rights within this basin. To be clear, nothing in the 1969 judgment, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, or California water law prevents Western Water from installing a well at 7200 Magnolia Avenue in Riverside. Next slide, please. The addendum is the appropriate and sufficient pass under SEQA because the proposed changes do not result in any new significant environmental impacts beyond what was already analyzed in the 2019 FEIR. The SEQA Guidelines Section 15164 allows for an addendum when minor changes or additions to the project are necessary and do not significantly alter the original environmental findings. Our comprehensive environmental assessment confirmed that the relocation of the well and the pipeline adjustments do not trigger any new significant impacts or require substantial revisions to the previous analysis. By proceeding with the addendum, we ensure that the project remains compliant with SEQA while avoiding the delays and costs associated with a new EIR. This approach allows us to move forward efficiently and responsibly, securing the necessary grant funding by meeting the project's timeline requirements. In conclusion, the Well 7 project is a vital part of our strategy to reduce reliance on imported Colorado River water. The proposed modifications improve the project's efficiency and reduce environmental impacts while addendum process under CEQA ensures full compliance and transparency. We recommend the board adopt the addendum and continue to move forward with this critical project, ensuring that we meet the grant deadline and secure the necessary funding. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Are there board questions of Mr. Kawai?
One quick question. Can you go back to, I think, where the map was, where it was, no. Location, yeah, the location, yes, please.
Yes.
The 8, slide 8. Oh, yeah, this one. All right. So what we had, originally EIR was for the circle marked on Magnolia. Is that what it is? Or the bottom one?
In the original FEIR, the consideration for the well 7 locations were indicated in the red circles.
Red circles, okay.
So those were considered as potential sites. We're recommending the final site be the one that's also just off of Magnolia in green.
The green one. Okay. All righty.
But I think the important point here is they are in the same basin.
It's the same basin, right?
That's right. They're within the Riverside-Arlington Basin. There has been some discussion about where the sub-basin boundary is. Regardless, they're all in the same basin.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Can you refresh my memory on the actual, this is a great little picture on the end when it says thank you. So that actual piece of the parking lot of the church, is that something that we lease from them? I know we've been doing like payments, but I didn't know if that was temporary till this got settled, or I just didn't remember. I apologize.
That's correct. So we entered into an agreement with the church in order to purchase the property where the well site will be. They have parking that's really not being used. It's not fully utilized by the church. And so they really literally said this is like a godsend for them. Their part of their church building had burnt down. And so when we approached them,
that's right.
this was quite, they viewed a gift as far as, my goodness, now they can rebuild and all of that. You're right, as far as the lease, we are paying a lease payment because, of course, until everything is sorted out, we don't want to purchase property. And so to reserve it, we're paying a lease payment. We'd like to resolve that and simply purchase the property, and this will help us do that by getting through this next part of the process.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just throw one thing in on that as well. The church's main sanctuary burned down several years ago, and they have been holding services in a smaller historic sanctuary on the same property, but even though it's a fairly small church, they're overcrowded and they would like to rebuild a main sanctuary. And it's my understanding that the price Western agreed to pay for the property where the well is just about exactly the same amount that they were short of being able to fund rebuilding their main sanctuary. So it has nothing to do with the well itself, but there's a side benefit to the community. So, okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions just based on concerns we've heard, so I just wanted more clarification for the public. What is, how long has Riverside Public Utilities been part of these discussions? They're here today, right?
Riverside Public Utilities has been involved, I'll say extensely. It's been around
Yeah,
all along.
Let us answer
Yeah.
that, because it's been longer than Derek's been involved in the
Yeah.
project.
So the SARCUP conversation has been going on for more than a decade. SARCUP is a grant-funded project, watershed-wide, and very early on, when Western acquired some of the grant funding, we approached Riverside Public Utilities and offered partnership and participation more than 8 years ago. The staff that we discussed it with at that time did not see any need for Riverside Public Utilities to participate, so we moved forward and secured the grant funding for Wells for Western.
Okay. What agency or who will ultimately decide what this water will be used for?
Western
Yeah,
Municipal
we
Water
will.
District.
This is, it's our well, it's our water system. As Derek highlighted in the presentation, we have the ability to do that. There's no water rights challenges. They're undefined rights. We can pump from there, just like RPU or any public entity can pump. Private entity can also pump from there. So we'll determine how the water's used within our system, but it's going into the non-potable system. So it'll go into, all of our non-potable uses, landscape irrigation, nurseries, other non-potable uses out of our system.
Okay, and since it's not a water rights, there's no water rights involved, Riverside, the city of Riverside hasn't,
They-
challenged
no,
it in any way?
Riverside, and David's here, I think he's gonna make, if he submitted a card, to make public comment. But Riverside doesn't own the water rights to that basin. As Derek said, this is all part of the 69 judgment, and it was, the basin was determined to have non-defined water rights. So that's the rule. So
Awesome.
we're violating nothing.
Good, that's good to hear. Is there, you know what, never mind, it's probably a super complicated answer. And it's a complicated question as is. Okay, those, actually, I had more of a point of curiosity. Why is this exempt from Sigma?
So it's an adjudicated basin, and as defined in the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, the basins under this jurisdiction, the court jurisdiction, are exempt from SGMA.
Cool.
Actually, there's two. There's two exemptions. One is if you have an adjudicated basin, the state said, well, that the governance of that basin is determined by the court, not the state, so they're exempt. And then there was also an exemption for managed basins. So like Orange County Water District is, Orange County Water District was set up by the state to be the basin manager, so they're also exempt from CEQA.
Okay.
Sigma, not CEQA.
Sigma.
Be careful.
We're complying, right?
Sigma,
We're
yeah.
complying
Sigma.
with Sigma. Okay, those are all my questions.
And just one other thing I just want to add as far as, yes, Western Municipal Water District will determine, how to run the well, but I wanted to highlight the fact that this is part of the SARCUP program, which is basically a number of agencies within the watershed coming together to better manage its local resources. And so what we're able to do is produce water if there's a call, or we can store water if there's excess water. So, and this is region-wide, and so we're doing our part by this is one small part of that overall program.
Yeah, I know the concern is that the water may not be going to things that the city takes care of, but the city doesn't seem to object or say we need this
No,
water instead or anything,
Director,
right?
I'm glad you brought that up because
Right.
there is this narrative out there that we're doing this, kind of without the city's knowledge. And RPU, David's going to make comments, but before David got to RPU, we were working really closely with Todd Corbin and the leadership of RPU about how we could always partner in SARCUP. And Tim and I spent, many, many meetings trying to figure out how RPU could make better use of SARCUP funding and do projects like this. And it never really worked out with RPU to help fund some of their own wells in other areas or improve their infrastructure. But we really investigated that a lot with the leadership team at the time at RPU. So this is a well that we'll use, Western will use. Western's going to build it. It goes into our system. We've been talking to RPU about this for a really long time. Their position has been, we understand the water rights. It doesn't affect the water rights. And if you want to build that, we're okay. David, if he wants to make comments about that, he can. But we have a long tradition of working with RPU because this was a great opportunity to leverage state funds to improve our local water supply. And we've worked really hard to implement those funds in Riverside itself. And it is a long story. I'm going on a little too long, but you may recall early on in SARCUP, Inland Empire Utility Agency was going to get a lot of the funding to implement storage programs in Chino Basin. Well, that didn't work out because of the politics in the Chino Basin. So they came back to the SARCUP agencies and said, we're gonna give back our portion of the funding. And Western said, that's great, a great opportunity for us. So we worked really hard to utilize all that funding in Western service area. So there's a big push to try and work on projects to all of our benefits. And, this is the one that, we ended up, this and the La Sierra pipeline and the storage tank at Sterling. So, this has been in the works for a really long time.
I think it's important to make clear that the city of Riverside has, they have their own supply of water, and if they find the need to use it for climate action or whatever, that's their prerogative. To use it for whatever they need. If they see that, if they've seen this project, they've been part of the conversation, and they have not seen a need to share in the water rights or whatever, that is the city's prerogative. Our prerogative is to use the rights the rights and infrastructure that we have and funding that we have to bring to bring water supply. And I think that's important to note, is that the city has water. They decide how to use it for whatever reasons. And so any conversation around that should go to the city and not to Western. I think that's important to note, which is why I ask these questions, because I think it needs to be clear to the public that the city has water, and they can decide how they use that water. And if they run out of water, or they can't use, or they can't supply, or they don't have a surplus, then that affects our wheeling agreement. It doesn't affect this infrastructure, but the city gets to decide that. It's not incumbent upon Western to see how the city's water supply is doing. That's not our job.
And maybe more importantly, RPU has the same rights to the water in this basin that Western does. They can drill their own wells if they wish and pump.
Right.
There's nothing that prevents them from doing that, just as there's nothing that prevents Western from doing that.
Right.
And Director Torres, I'll add on to your comment that you made a comment if they ran out of water. That's why Western was formed.
Right.
We're the security blanket for RPU and others. If something happens to their groundwater, we have the connection so that we can serve them met water. And so RPU is very fortunate that they have lots of groundwater and a huge groundwater pumping capacity. But if something happens, we're here for them, and we can provide imported water.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. But ultimately, if there are things that the Riverside and RPU customers want to see the water to go to, that is a City of Riverside conversation, period.
It's also important to note that Western does serve almost 10,000 connections in the city of Riverside. These customers get water from Western, imported water. Customers of the city of Riverside also get water from Riverside Public Utilities. We partner to deliver water to the city of Riverside. It is a partnership in many ways. The wheeling agreement's a partnership. This will be a partnership. We are dependent on the city of Riverside to move this water to our system through their canal. So it is a partnership. We are working with the city. So there is no divisiveness between us and Riverside Public Utilities. It is a partnership.
Thank you.
And one last point. Before we began the drilling of the well and the testing of the well, which, as you recall, required some water be drained into the street and ultimately into the Santa Ana River, I had a meeting with Riverside Mayor, the Riverside City Manager, a representative from RPU. We invited the council member who didn't come, and they were fully briefed on, here's the well, here's what's going to happen. If people have issues, please direct them to Western. There was some conversation about the history and what the well is for. So this was prior to the last election in City of Riverside, so there's a different council member. I believe it's 3. Yeah, I believe it's Ward 3. They also redistricted, and I didn't pay that much attention, except that I got moved. So there has been a real effort by Western to keep the city leadership involved and knowledgeable, and as Craig has said, to make this a partnership, not a taking. So with that, any other questions? If not, do we have public comment?
President Gardner, we do. I did receive 2 public comments in writing this morning after the deadline for this item. Those did not make the deadline, however, we will provide them to the board, and that will be brought to the next board meeting. And I do have a request to speak from David Garcia.
Okay,
Mr. Garcia?
Mr. Garcia, welcome and congratulations. Mr. Garcia has now been confirmed as the general manager of Riverside Public Utilities.
Thank
They
you.
made a good choice.
Thank you, President Gardner, Western Board. 5 days on the job now, but really excited. Yeah, my first, my second board meeting is a Western board meeting. But anyways, I have a few comments here. Like I said, my name is David Garcia. You know, I've been in the watershed, Santa Ana River watershed, for almost 30 years now. In fact, started my career side by side with your general manager, Craig Miller, at Orange County Water District when we were solving regional water supply issues at that time. I'm here today just to let you know that the city of Riverside is well aware of well number 7, and we've been working with Western staff on an agreement to convey that water to Western's Jefferson's booster station. They're off of Jefferson Street in Indiana, there in the city of Riverside. So staff is working diligently to get that to our board and council for discussion and eventually for consideration for approval on that agreement. As you're aware, we have other agreements, willing agreements to transfer water from Riverside's groundwater access in the Bunker Hill Basin and Riverside North and Riverside South. So that said, I just wanted to make you all aware that the staff is working with Western staff, and we're here to support in any way we can to help with your projects. We do respectfully consider the comments from Kier, and we're here to assist in any way we can in working with Kier and Western to solve any issues that may arise from their comments. So again, we're here, we're a partnership, and we've been working together for years to provide water to the citizens of the city of Riverside. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, any further discussion, questions of Derek or Mr. Miller? If not, I would look for a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second, any discussion? Seeing none, Tammy, would you please do a roll call vote?
Director Torres?
Yes.
Director Denstedt?
Aye.
Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Rizvi?
Aye.
President Gardner?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Okay, Derek,
Thank
you
you,
don't have to
Directors.
leave yet. Our next item is to consider approving pre-purchase of long lead time mechanical and electrical equipment for the Sarkup non-potable well number 7.
All right, so this ran through the engineering committee also. There was a discussion there. Derek will present this
Sure.
to the board.
So this is concerning pre-purchase of long lead time mechanical and electrical equipment for the Well 7 project that we just discussed in the previous item. The staff recommends that the board of the directors do a number of items. First, the proposal is to increase the project budget by $700,000, raising it from $2.8 million to $3.5 million by utilizing funds from the board-adopted fiscal year 2024-2025 capital improvement and facility plan under the System Improvement Reserves 04. This is for Riverside Non-Potable Fund, number 21. This budget increases essential to accommodate the pre-purchase of critical mechanical and electrical equipment due to long lead times for delivery, which are required to meet the construction schedule deadlines under the SARCUP grant agreement. A formal request for quotes was advertised on Western Water's Planet Bids portal, ensuring wide visibility and encouraging competitive participation. The request for quotes included detailed specifications, delivery requirements, and terms and conditions. A mandatory pre-bid conference was held to provide clarifications on the project needs and specifications. A total of 5 qualified vendors submitted bids for the mechanical equipment, and 3 vendors submitted bids for the electrical equipment. After evaluation of the bids, Best Drilling and Pump Incorporated of Colton, California, was selected for the mechanical pumping equipment with a bid amount of $313,207. For the electrical equipment, Royal Industrial Solutions of Riverside was selected with a bid amount of $108,725. The proposed action involves authorizing the general manager to approve purchase orders for each successful vendor for their bid amount. We previously had authorized professional services contract with MKN. You'll note that in the write-up. That's not one of the action items for this one, but one I wanted to note that we're extending that agreement under the GM's authority. And the pre-purchase is required because it's a critical step for getting this project on time. It's a tight deadline. We expect to get the final design drawings in November of this year, and we're going to get out to bid shortly thereafter. This should allow us to meet that deadline that I mentioned before for the grant. One of the questions last time in the engineering committee was regarding if there's any risk of purchasing this equipment, and perhaps if the project is either delayed, a lot, or canceled. What's the risk to Western? I wanted to assure the board that there is minimal to no risk associated with pre-purchasing this equipment. The specifications are designed to be standardized components that can be readily repurposed across multiple facilities, many of them Western Water facilities. The pumps, they're 1,500 gallons per minute, 14-inch diameter pumps with 164 feet of stainless steel column. It's very similar to what we use at the Arlington Salter facility. So if the Well 7 project were delayed or canceled, the pumps can be repurchased with minor adjustments. The motor and the soft start electrical controller, this equipment can be earmarked for installation at the 1860 pump station, which would provide immediate utility with no modifications required, minor, of course, installation. Moreover, there are multiple other locations where the equipment could be beneficial if that becomes necessary. The electrical components, such as the switchgear and the electrical components, can be stored as part of Western's inventory and utilized for future infrastructure upgrades or maintenance projects. These components are standard and they're versatile, and it won't have any potential risk of not being applicable or since it's the most up to date, you have very little risk of obsolescence. So, given these considerations, the risk of pre-purchasing the equipment is negligible. But I wanted to make sure I got back to you about that question. I want to acknowledge that we have Dean Garcia from Best Drilling. And Dean, did you have anything that you wanted to say on this? He's on the Zoom.
No, I think I'm good. As long as I don't know if anybody else has any questions for me.
Okay. And then Robert Christensen of Royal Industrial Solutions is also on the line.
Any questions?
Yeah, good morning, members of the board. I'm just thankful to be here, and I just look forward to assisting you guys along in this project and making it successful for you and the community.
Great. Thank you very much. And that's it for my presentation.
Okay. Questions for Derek? Not, I would look for a motion.
So move.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. I assume that was a motion to approve.
Yes.
Tammy, when the system is ready.
Director Torres?
Yes.
Director Dinstedt?
Aye.
Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Rizvi?
Aye.
President Gardner?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Great.
Thank you,
very
directors.
much. Our last action item is to consider authorizing the refurbishment of 2 truck bodies and the purchase of 1 new truck body to be installed on 3 recently purchased Ford 5-550 chassis.
Good morning,
Jason,
directors.
good morning.
Thank you for your time today. My name is Jason Behringer, Operations Manager for Mechanical Services, Facilities, and Fleet. I'm here today to discuss the refurbishment of 2 service bodies and the purchase of 1 new service body. Staff is recommending that the Board of Directors, number 1, approve a $350,000 increase to the medium heavy-duty truck acquisition budget from $206,000 to $556,000 in the board-adopted capital improvement and facilities plan for fiscal years 2024, 2025, and 2025, 2026. Funds will be used to refurbish 2 existing service bodies and purchase 1 new service truck body to be installed on 3 recently purchased Ford F-550 chassis. And 2, authorize the general manager to execute a contract to open the associated purchase order with USA Truck Bodies to refurbish 2 existing bodies and purchase 1 new service truck body for an amount up to $350,000. If you recall, the board authorized the purchase of 3 F-550 gasoline chassis in November of 2023 with the intent of reusing the service bodies from our 3 current diesel units. After inspection, 2 of the service bodies can be refurbished at about 1/3 of the cost of new, and the 3rd service body was designated to be replaced due to its poor condition, which leads us to our ask today to refurbish 2 of the truck bodies and purchase 1 new. And with that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Does anyone have questions?
Move approval.
Have a
Second.
motion and a second. Tammy, when the system is ready, if you would do a roll call vote, please.
Director Torres.
Yes.
Director Dinstead.
Aye.
Director Roten.
Yes.
Director Risby.
Aye.
President Gardner.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Brings us to reports. Mr. General Counsel, welcome back.
Thank you. I have nothing for you this morning.
Okay, Mr. General Manager.
Well, I'm a little disappointed you didn't ask Jason any questions. He got off easy. Thanks for coming up, Jason. Yeah, I've got quite a few short reports. First of all, David Garcia, I want to congratulate him for being named GM. I feel like a parent. We hired David when I was at Orange County Water District. It's kind of like watching one of your kids graduate college and getting a really great job and being successful. So he spent a lot of time at Orange County Water District, a very successful time at Eastern Municipal Water District, and then he's been here. He said 5 days on the job, but he's been here for a few years in the deputy role, and we're just really happy that he got appointed by the city council.
He did
for that.
function as interim after Todd Corbin.
He did function as interim, and I'm really confident that he's going to do a great job.
He
And
will.
he's got a heavy lift. You know, he's a water person, and RPU is water and power, and so he's got to do a lot of picking up the power side too. So we'll lose him on the water side a little bit with his power obligations, but we're really excited to have him on board and work with him as a partner. SB 366 was formally enrolled, which means it's officially on the governor's desk. He has until September 30th. We've heard nothing about timing for that, so we just all have our fingers crossed that he'll sign that bill. We've incorporated everything that he's asked for in his own water plan, so I think we're very well positioned, and we've certainly been working on that behind the scenes. So hopefully we get that signature.
Well, wait a second, though, but if he doesn't sign it and doesn't veto it, it still goes, right?
Yes.
No.
No, he does. We've researched this.
Yeah.
If he does not sign, it is enacted.
Yeah.
I know, Director Gardner, you've heard the opposite. We've asked this numerous times
You have
now.
to veto it in order for it to die completely. If he-
California has a pocket veto.
So,
We've researched this with our lobbyists, and they said, nope, If he doesn't veto it, it gets passed.
I believe that's wrong.
Okay?
Okay, well, I guess we'll keep going on the research, but, yeah, so.
I want him to sign it.
Oh, no, we want him to sign it too. We want him to sign it too.
I had,
Council have a.
I hate saying,
Council have a
I
comment?
will say my understanding is the same as staff's, is that if the governor does not act or veto it, then it becomes law.
Okay, that would be preferable, but it's not my understanding. I'd like to be wrong.
and
I wasn't going to use that word, but I will certainly confirm for the board after the meeting.
Yeah.
we certainly hope with all of the comments that the governor's made, the positive comments the governor's made about future water projects, he's come out very strongly about Delta Conveyance and Sites Reservoir, that he wants to see those permitted and moving forward by the time he leaves office. We think this signals a really strong message towards future water supply also. So we're certainly hoping that he uses this to help make a statement on California's water supply by signing it. Went out to the city of Murrieta last week, had a really great meeting with Lisa DeForest and the new assistant city manager, Kristen Crane. Talk about water issues out in Murrieta. That went great. I'll be at the Residents Association of Greater Lake Matthews tonight to give an update on Western and what we're doing at 7 o'clock if you'd like to attend. I've been, not me, Bianca, I think Bianca's here. Bianca and Candy have been busier than anyone at Western in the last couple weeks with recruitment. We've had 7 best fit interviews since the last board meeting. That's a final interview that every candidate goes through with myself and with Tim. We've hired 5 of those. We've got two more candidates in the works with offers. And then today we interview 2 more to add to that list. So we've been really busy hiring.
Are we hiring an assistant general manager?
No.
I saw a
Oh, no,
LinkedIn
sorry.
ad.
Yes.
CFO.
CFO,
We
there you
think
go.
CFO.
Oh,
It is
right, too.
assistant, it is CFO
The
and
CFO position.
assistant.
Are you leaving?
Yes, retiring at the end of the year.
Oh, wow. Well,
Go
okay.
try it.
I-
We've all tried to talk about it. Give it a shot.
We've already
Give it a
talked
shot.
about that, so.
It did concern me when he thought, why replace it?
Yeah, right.
And-
No, I
and,
didn't know. Well, I hope you live life to the fullest after December and today and tomorrow.
And that recruitment is out on the street. We've been putting a lot of effort into that recruitment. You may have seen flyers and other things. We've had an amazing response. Bianca and Kevin are working on the list of candidates to interview right now, so we're making good progress on that. Certainly, the hope is that we can bring someone in before Kevin walks out the door so they can have a little bit of overlap. Kevin can show them where all the good documents are and talk about some of the complexities of our med issues and our member agency issues. I'm not busy enough with recruitment here. In my role as president at CMUA, Barry Moline, the executive director, is doing the same thing that Kevin's doing. He informed the board probably 4 months ago that he'll be retiring at the end of the year also. So we're recruiting for an executive director. We interviewed candidates virtually, which is very interesting, last week, and then Monday I was up there to interview the finalists with our selection team, which is a subset of the board. We've landed on a candidate that we will be making a recommendation to the board to make an offer to. So that was good. I did that all day Monday up in Sacramento. Med updates. Director Gardner and myself got invited to Metropolitan. Our president got to sit in the big chair between the general manager and the chair, Met chair. Director Denstead did a nice introduction for both of us, and President Gardner and I shared a presentation on what Western's up to the Met board. And this is a rotating thing. They've tried to get every member agency to come up and do that presentation. And unfortunately, Western is DFW near the end of the list. So there's been a lot of presentations. We got our turn finally. So that was really nice. And we had a very nice welcome from the board chair, Don Ortega, to do that.
And did you enjoy?
And we were invited for lunch up there. We got to have lunch with the board members. So it was fun to sit with the board members and talk about various Met things. We continue on the camp process. I was up there last week. I was up there twice last week, once for the board meeting and once for a 3-hour meeting on camp. Making slow progress, but continue to move the ball forward. We've set up 2 retreats for the member agency managers to talk about the business model. So this is something that Met organized where a representative, the general manager generally, from each of the Met member agencies is going to attend a retreat. I think it's on the 10th and 11th of October to really kind of pour through Met's business model and start evaluating whether there's any potential modifications or changes that the member agency managers would like to recommend to the camp task force. So we expect to kind of wrap that work up in March. So that's going to kick off quite the effort. So I'm involved. Unfortunately, I'll be on vacation that week. They picked a really bad date for me, but you can't pick a date that doesn't impact one of the 26 member agencies. So I came out on the short end of that program, but it's okay. I'll have staff there to voice our opinions, and it's missing the first one is not as critical as missing the latter ones where we start talking about potential solutions. Also met with the interim general manager, Devin, this weekend for dinner, so talked about all sorts of Met issues with him. That was great. The fire that happened in Riverside recently, we heard a little input and we were doing some research on how that affected any of Western's customers. There was a small little area of Western customers that were affected. So Tim and our customer service team and customer experience team we're sending a letter out because we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help our community out. There were people that were trying to wet down their homes and their landscape to prevent their houses from catching on fire. And so we started thinking about, well, we don't want them to be penalized for their water use to help prevent their homes from burning down. So we found seven customers that had done that. So we're going to go ahead and not charge them for any penalties for overusage or anything like that.
Do you have like a map? Or
We do.
71 homes burned to the ground.
Not within Western's retail service area. We got a map from Riverside Fire, and they provided us the area that was affected within our service area. And our staff actually researched and looked at exactly how much water was used in that area and which customers exceeded their budgets. And we'll be refunding that it's only about $400, but every little bit helps. So,
Yeah.
but there were no homes in our retail service area that were damaged or destroyed.
Okay, well, that's good to hear.
The last thing. Remember we had Graham Badner and Carrie Buckman come and talk about Delta Conveyance and gave our board a really great rundown on Delta Conveyance. Eastern and IUA are doing the same thing. So that's coming up. The first one will be at Eastern October 1st. And Carla Nemeth is going to come down and do that. I'm not sure if Graham is joining. I haven't seen the invitation. Okay. So they're kind of extending the opportunity for our board if they want to go and listen, just so we're aware of that. We heard it, but it's always nice to hear from Carla Nemeth. She brings a great perspective on California water. I always enjoy hearing her talk. So That's going to happen, one at IUA and one at Eastern. Eastern will be first, but we'll get the IUA invite out also. We'll get both of those to the board.
As soon as I receive that, yes, I'll send out the Eastern invite this afternoon.
And that concludes my comments. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Greg? Please.
On the Delta Conveyance projects, does anyone have on their radar to make sure that our local legislators are included in an invite to those? If, depending, like Easterns or IUA or,
Yeah, I'm not sure because we haven't even received our invite yet. So I'm not sure what the list is, but Tammy can check and see what the list is
I
at
think I
Eastern.
got an email.
I'll reach out to Eastern staff.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, because I know we've had that discussion that maybe our Southern California legislators could be more enthusiastically involved
Yes.
in these projects.
Yes, this is an enormous statewide issue
Yeah.
on our future water supply. We need all legislators engaged in this. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Brings us to directors' reports and requests. SOMPA met yesterday. Got a briefing on the Santa Ana River Trail, which is still under construction here and there, and may be for a very long time. And it was not on the agenda. We didn't take any action, but there was some discussion about whether we want to proceed with the cloud seeding program this coming year, given the extent of the fires that have occurred in the target areas for the cloud seeding. So that determination, there'll be an analysis, that determination will be made before November, when it is scheduled to kick off again.
So that was presented to the SAPA GMs also, and the flood control agencies immediately contacted SAPA, I mean, like the first day of the fire, and said, please, pull back the cloud seeding in that area. And the general manager's suggestion is we should just park the entire program for the year. We'll continue to evaluate and make sure, but to us, that's kind of the heart of the cloud seeding effort. That's the watershed that we're really pushing for. And they're going to have some major flood issues and debris issues. So, we don't want to do anything to exacerbate that. And remember, there is also cloud seeding in Orange County, which is right where the airport fire is. So, we're going to be very, very cautious on that.
So my guess is that SOMPA will do exactly that, just put the program on hold for at least a year, but an action has not been taken yet. There's some additional work going on before it comes to the SOMPA board, but that will be happening.
What, quick question?
Yes.
On the trail update, was there like a PowerPoint that went with it, or?
Yes.
So I can just look it up on the?
I think you can see it on the SOMPA
Okay.
website.
Okay.
There are 2 miles yet to be completed in Orange County. There are, I want to say, 10 miles in Riverside County and 20 miles in San Bernardino County. The San Bernardino County portion is mostly from Seven Oaks Dam up the hill, because it does go to the headwaters of the Santa Ana River ultimately.
Oh, I thought it started at.
The
dam.
hardest part is around Prado Dam and Highway 71 and Highway 91. In Riverside County, there are 3 bridges that will need to be built.
Right.
There's debate as to whether those bridges should be pedestrian and bicycle only, or whether they should be designed for vehicular traffic, for example, fire engines. And none of that has been decided, and the funding doesn't yet exist to do even a pedestrian-only bridge. So, ongoing.
Okay, thanks.
Metropolitan.
So Metropolitan's board meeting, obviously you guys were there and present, so I hope you enjoyed it and got to see the dynamic and got to sit and talk with people and had an entertaining experience. Just, we'll leave it at that. On their consent calendar, and it was kind of interesting because it was a flip from the committee the day before, was their change in the support of Prop 4 for the Safe Drinking Water, Wildfire and Drought Preparedness and Clean Air Bond Act. Committee suggested that we kind of do a neutral position, and then it was Senator Allen, I think, that came and spoke during the board meeting and got everybody, I guess, to kind of flip that position to a support. I went ahead and stuck with our position that we were going to be in neutral. We wanted more, we deserved more, we wanted to see more in water, so I stuck with that position, and so that's kind of where that landed. And very interesting too, the long lead equipment purchase also happened for the Sepulveda feeder pump stations, and that was a $40 million increase to that contract. So we're not the only ones that are doing that. Metropolitan is also engaging in that kind of practice to try to and ultimately save on the construction time and save on the lead time, because everybody is having these challenges right now of trying to get equipment to some of these sites and some of the more, I don't know, I guess, specified equipment needs. These are not general things. They're particularly sized and conditioned and built for these particular projects. So, and then there's been a lot of conversation, and Pure Water of Southern California has come up on their number of discussions have happened. We continue to look at that project, but there are now, myself included, several board members that are asking questions of, well, we've spent a great deal of time on Pure Water and the discussions over that because of the grant money that has been associated with it. However, there are other projects and things that we need to take into consideration, and if we only got a bonding capacity so much, we need to make sure that we're making a well-informed, and every project is given the same consideration and information that's shared with us before we get to a decision-making process. So I think staff is starting to hear us loud and clear, and they're starting to bring forward some of the other considerations and discussions for storage options, for Sites Reservoir, for Delta Conveyance, for the west side storage option, right? Some other things that need to be a part of the consideration, and it's not just a discussion about Pure Water. So happy to continue those discussions, and as things progress a little bit more on that front, I will continue to share with you. For next month, we also have the chair will be voted on next month, and that is coming up. The nominations are at the end of the month. Of course, you can always nominate from the floor, so always going to be an interesting time. We'll see what happens. And I will be in place for the next meeting. I will actually be in New Orleans at WEFTEC. I'm going to be attending that conference. Metropolitan is receiving an award at that. And so myself and Dennis Ergman, the chair of the Engineering and Operations Committee, will be in place to be there to receive that award. So looking forward to doing that. It'll be my first time at that conference. I understand that there are more than 20,000 people from all over the world that will be in attendance at that conference. So it's that will be a whole new avenue of experience for me. And with that, and then we continue to await one of the big topics of conversation continues to be the reports in closed session for what's going on for the decision of the general manager, who continues forward on his paid administrative leave pending the results of the investigations that will all be heard in closed session and are scheduled for the executive committee meeting and a special board meeting that has been scheduled jointly for October the 22nd. So that will probably be a long day for me. And that's all I have to report.
Okay. Sure.
The election for board chair, is there normally a progression of the vice president moves up? So there's no set tradition or, oh. Okay, pardon me?
Yep.
Wow.
It,
Okay.
and sometimes it's very contentious and sometimes it's not. So, yeah, so, yeah, there is, I don't know that it's ever gone to a succession plan. And I'll find out more, but I don't believe so. But I will talk to some of my board members who've been in place for 30 years, but I think it's kind of anything can happen. Yeah. Anything could happen on the day, yeah.
Okay, Chino Basin Water Master meets next week. CDA. Okay. RCRA,
Meets next week.
WRCOG.
WRCOG. So WRCOG, there's been a lot of discussion going on. They're doing the TUMF Nexus study, and there's been a lot of time has been taken up with that, as far as time spent with WRCOG and everything that's going on. And we obviously do not have a dog in the fight on that for TUMF, so it does not a participation vote for us. We did land on a speaker for next year. An offer has been made and contracts are in the works of being signed, but we have entertained and engaged from the Washington Speakers Bureau, Admiral McRaven, if you're not familiar with him. He is a very distinguished individual. I understand he was a chancellor at one point for Texas University. He was the admiral in charge of the SEAL Team 6 who went after bin Laden, and he has written a book, several books actually, one of which was Make Your Bed. So it's a very popular book. So we look forward to his engagement and leadership address and coming to our General Assembly next June. So mark that on your calendar, and the date has been moved up 2 weeks. I believe it's on the 12th of June. So, because that was due to Pachunga's availability. So they kind of locked us out of our normal time and gave it to somebody else, which we were kind of baffled with. So I think we're already engaging them for the year, the following year, to try to get the dates that it's traditionally held at, because we don't want to compete with graduations and all of the things that happen at that time of year. So we prefer to have it a little bit later in the month of June. So, and that is about all I have to report. Everything else was pretty standard.
Okay, Sarah.
Sora has moved to a quarterly calendar, and last meeting was canceled. So we will meet in November.
Okay. Aqua Region 9.
Aqua Region 9, we are looking for a meeting date for next month for the board to sit and discuss programs coming up for the Aqua Conference, which will be in December. So I believe a block of rooms has already been gotten, so, and it's going to be held at the JW Marriott down in Palm Desert. So
That is
you are
correct.
certainly invited to attend the upcoming Aqua Conference. There should be some very entertaining programs, and we are having the discussion about having that conversation about ag and the importance of ag and water.
Good. Thank you. Director's comments. Director Torres.
Sorry, I dozed out for a second. No real comments except wishing everyone a happy Latino Heritage Month. That's about it.
Okay. Director Roden.
I don't have any comments today.
Okay.
Can't believe it.
Director Denstedt.
Yes. Mr. President, I have attended several conferences. I went to CSDA down in the desert. You know, conference for me are very different. I've been going to conferences for a very long time, and a lot of conversation is going on about Metropolitan. People want to get into the know, so I sit and have a lot of sidebar conversations with folks. One of the really encouraging things out of this conference and some of the people that I got to speak with from the San Diego Water Authority Board, that are in that is they are really hoping for a settlement to come play forward with the lawsuit that's going on with Met. They're really wanting to put that all behind us, and that's very encouraging to me. You know, this litigation has been going on since, 2012, when the first cases were filed. And so, you know, it's time to come to the table and time to work on greater water solutions. And so I was very encouraged by that. CSDA always has some very engaging keynote speakers. I forgot to bring the list, and I'll be happy to share that with you the next time. But the speakers are always very engaging and very appropriate for that conference. And it's always nice to talk. CSDA has such a mix because it's not just water, it's other special districts that are part of that and have challenges. And the things that they meet and face, you know, fires and drought and a lot of different things are a concern of a lot of those districts. So always great to get out and venture. So I would encourage you, if you've not had that on your radar before, that perhaps to attend one of those conferences just for the sake of the connections the networking that you can get, the different people that you get to speak with, and the different experiences that you get to hear as part of those programs. Because it ventures, we have partnerships and involvement with a lot of them, park and rec districts, and a lot of them that, you know, to hear what their challenges are too and how we can partner on those fields. So just that. And then I also attended water reuse down in Garden Grove. I was at that conference Monday and Tuesday. I want to offer a congratulations to Eastern Municipal Water District, who received an award for one of their projects. So congratulations extended to them for doing that. There was a very interesting video that was produced and done, and the star of the video was Jack Black. And, you know, being that he is a primary comedian, and he's very engaging, very personable on screen, it was very interesting talking about, you know, there's a lot of bad press that started out, and Miller Brewing Company was the one that did Toilet to Tap and have shut down projects and caused a lot of grief when they are trying to do this thing. But, you know, he came in and brought a little bit of a comedy flair to it, talking about it. He made reference. I've asked to see if we could get, Dave Peterson said he'd send us a link to the video. I'd love to play that. But one of the big conversations that a lot of us were having down there is the fact that, you know, engineers are really great at what they do. They've got the great pencils, they do these projects, they do these enormous graphs and all these crazy things that you sit and you have to track and try to follow. What they're not great at is communicating that message forward to the public, that we are trying to share this message of what the benefits are. They're really not great at that, and they acknowledge that. And there's some component that we're just missing to try to figure out how to do and paint a better messaging picture for what water reuse, what recycled water is, what that is meaning to the general public. So I was really encouraged with them acknowledging the fact that they're not great at their messaging, and how we can try to communicate and come up with better strategies, because I don't know that anybody has truly found the silver bullet on this yet, of how we can mesh the worlds together. So very promising on that. And
Ask an astronaut.
right, right, exactly. And I did spend most of my time when they were talking about pure water projects, timing, funding, challenges, just what is going into them and what the delays are costing, and listening to the city of Santa Monica that talked about how they were doing a project, and in order to get through some of the city's requirements and things, they had to put a art-approved fence that had to be designed by a local artist that raised their project by $1 million because of this fence that they had to put around, that the city had to approve, that took them a year to come up with the approvals, the design, and then they had to fund an extra $1 million for the project for a fence. So just interesting challenges out there with different entities, for sure. And then there was conversations about the fires, the concerns going on, especially, I did find out and I guess this came out in the news and I must have missed it, but the big conversation was there's going to be a lot of litigation that's going to be filed over the airport fire. That was done and was accountable by Public Works that went up there and dropped the 3 boulders that sparked and set the whole thing ablaze and has now gone over 23,000 acres and mass evacuations that have happened in the Lake Elsinore side. I was lucky enough to be just on the outside fringe of the warning area this time. But it was definitely a very bad fire and a lot of stuff, a lot of conversations about how that got out of hand and what water agencies can do to try to help partner more with fire. And a lot of talk, Laura would have liked this, about the Healy, the heli hydrant stuff, the coming in and various different things and how far away lakes were and water sources and supplies for that particular fire that was not in a very great accessible area. So just more about that. And then I did attend the Marietta Chamber Gala. We were up for Large Business of the Year award. And unfortunately, we were not the winners this year. It was taken by Rancho California Water District, and I think it was solely attributed to them receiving their Emmy. I think it's really what it came down to. So I'm very hopeful that, you know, if SB 366 moves, I mean, come on. We've got to, at some point, be on the map of winning this award for Large Business of the Year for passing statewide legislation. So I'm hopeful, and I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for next year, and we'll keep forward on that. But congratulations to Rancho on receiving that award. And I think, Mr. President, I've had enough time today.
Okay. Mr. Miller, did you have something?
Well, I'm remiss in my report. Rancho reminded me of that. So they have a new general manager. So Jason Martin was named
okay.
last week as he was their interim general manager, and he's been made the permanent general manager. So I don't want to leave him out. I congratulate David Garcia. I want to make sure we congratulate Jason too.
Okay.
Director Risby.
Nothing.
I have just a couple of comments on the trip to the Metropolitan Water District board meeting. It's an impressive big boardroom with, you know, seats for not just all of the board members, but seats for all of the senior staff. Across the back is a row of chairs for department heads, and it's an older building, but it was interesting to go to. I think the thing of real significance for Western is we gave them a little one-page, here's Western information sheet, but we gave them the landscape guide. And that was very well received. A number of people commented on how much they like it. Chair Ortega said, you know, I used to have a copy of this and I'm redoing my yard and I'm glad you brought me one because I want to use it, but I don't know what happened to my copy. So that was really well received and we got good compliments on that. Craig, of course, did his normal outstanding job on explaining the details of our presentation. I got to do the introductory, you know, hi, I'm Mike, this is Craig. Craig's going to talk now. And we went from there, but it was a good trip and I'm glad we got to do it. Do we have any requests for future agenda items? We have some information items. If anybody has questions, talk to staff. Our next meeting is October the 2nd at 9:30 in the morning, and with that, we will be adjourned. Thank you all very much. Oh, boy.
I need to jot down a couple things that came in an email.